What's up, everyone? So one of the first things you probably learned in jiu-jitsu is how to tap out. But are there situations where maybe it's not worth it to tap out? And, what's like the worst that could happen? We're going to answer both those questions today by analyzing one of the most famous jiu-jitsu matches of all time, Roger Gracie versus Jacare at the 2004 Black Belt Absolute World Finals. We're also going to explore some of the science and anatomy of one of the classic jiu-jitsu moves, the straight arm lock. And my hope is that by watching this video, by the end of it, you'll have a better understanding of how this technique works and also what kind of damage it can do to yourself and your opponent. And if you don't know me, my name's Sean. I'm a BJJ Black Belt and one of the founders of the BJJ education app, Digitsu. Okay, so let's dive right into our match here. We have Jacare versus Roger Gracie. It's a finals of the Absolute Black Belt Worlds 2004. I'm going to keep score. I might miss some penalties here and there, and I really want to focus in at the end of the match. So I'm going to kind of skip through as we go, but let's get started here today. So we're starting out here on our feet here. So right here on the edge of the mat, first 30 seconds or so, Roger pulls guard. And they're on the edge of the mat, so the ref calls time, and he brings them back to the center here. So they reset in the center of the mat here. Jacare goes to stand up. And you notice as Jacare goes to stand up, he goes back down to his knees. That's because Roger's scooping the leg there, and he feels a little off balance. And you notice how long Roger's legs are here? He almost had a body triangle at one point, like kind of reminded me of like Anderson Silva back in the day. So really interesting thing to watch here. See how Jacare has that same side kind of collar grip there? Roger's trying to peel the grip right here. He's trying to peel the grip. He's using his hands to kind of peel it off. And he's also controlling at the wrist as well. He basically wants to peel it off to bring it across. And you notice right here, Jacare has his elbow on the outside to make it very difficult, even if the grip is broken, to bring the arm across. And Jacare goes to stand up here, and right away, Roger goes for that kind of scoop grip right there, and Jacare goes back to his knees right there. Again, Roger's got that 2-in-1 there. He's got behind the sleeve there. Jacare goes to stand up, and right away, Jacare goes back to his knees. You can see Roger's a little frustrated here because every time Jacare goes to stand up, he goes back to his knees right away. Okay, now you notice here, he's freeing the grip here. He's got it peeled, and he has the elbow here, and he's trying to bring it across. Jacare is putting his elbow on the outside to make that very difficult. But there he has it. So now Roger has his arm across right here, and he's going to work his legs up to cover the shoulder here. So that makes his arm very vulnerable for arm locks. And he's kind of, all right, so now he's also scooping the other leg and has the arm here. So this also brings up like sweep attempts, triangles, and other attacks from the other side. But now you notice Roger has the shoulder completely covered. So now it also puts threats to that arm lock we were talking about earlier. So notice the counter to that position for Jacare was to kind of stand up and shake and try to get his elbow free, and he got it free right there. So his counter to the arm lock seems to be to basically stack and try to free that elbow. And then we end up in this kind of scramble right here. Yeah, so right away in that scramble from the stack, Roger elects to basically turtle to not risk getting past here. And then right away, Jacare spins to the back here, and we have our first points on the board, which is an advantage for Jacare. Now Jacare is staying really tight here. He has his hips over Roger's hips in case he goes to roll. He has his hands here in position to make space, potentially put hooks in, but also control the hips here. Kind of sprawling out to be really heavy as well. So we kind of spent a lot of time here with Jacare on Roger's back trying to make space. He's looking for that hook. He has the near side hook now. I believe he has it in. Now he's going for the other side hook. Roger's fighting it with his hand here. And right now, boom. Jacare got the other hook in. He's holding position. And there you go. So now Jacare has 4 points for back control. Basically hand fighting here. Jacare is trying to set his grips. So one thing Roger's notoriously good at is his defense, basically for submissions, but also from positions as well. So Jacare is gonna have a hard time here, but he's grip fighting. He's looking for the collar grips here. And Hadra's controlling that top arm to make it difficult for him to set the chokes. He's 2-on-1ing that choke arm right there, controlling the sleeve. It's really good defense there. So we spend a lot of time here with Jacare on the back here. You know, now here, notice how Hadra, he's getting his head out here to this side, to the mat, and he's going to turn the face Jacare right here. And then immediately he's going to try to roll over the shoulder here. Rolling, trying to roll to get his guard back. And then we end up in like a 50-50 position right here. So I believe Jacare's foot's on the other side. And Hadra's feet are on the outside. So this is a 50-50 right here. So we spent a lot of time in this 50-50 position. You know, Jacare staying on top, grip fighting, kind of locked in here. You notice here, Hadra's going for that far leg to try to destabilize him. Right here, boom. So Hadra gets that hip to the mat here. Scrambling, trying to get on top, Oh, okay. So notice right there, it's kind of untangle that 50-50 here. So Hadra's doing a good job controlling this sleeve, so Jacare can't use it to base out. But kind of in the scramble, as soon as Jacare is able to get this foot out, which is not controlled, he's able to put it out and set base behind him. So he can't build up to the hand, but Jacare is very athletic here, and he can just kind of hop to his foot and his knee right here. Boom, right there. So he's able to kind of regain his base here. And right here, all right, and right here, that's an advantage for Hadra right there. And right away here, Hadra pulls guard, so he gets up into closed guard here at the edge of the mat. And the ref resets him in the center of the mat. So now Hadra has that closed guard again. So you notice right away, Jacare is putting that hand really far on this side. Like he's trying to basically get his whole elbow down. And right away, just like before, Hadra's controlling that sleeve, and he's looking for the same attack here. Jacare is aware of it. He has his shoulder down, he has his elbow down. He's willing to just put his whole arm on the mat almost, just to avoid that armbar setup again. But again, you know, Hadra is controlling the sleeve here, trying to get that arm across just like before. And you notice how here Jacare is like burying his shoulder and his head down. He's also trying to make it very difficult for Hadra to get that leg up over the shoulder again. You know, staying low. They both know what each other wants in the situation, but it looks like Hadra here is starting to get that arm across still. And notice just like before, every time Jacare goes to stand up, he scoops the leg. Getting that arm across though. Even right here, you can see the elbow now is almost across the center line. This leg is up almost over the shoulder now. You know, it's almost up over the shoulder. Climbing. So he's climbing up. He's almost covering it. You notice how Jacare is trying to use his head to kind of shake it off here. And boom. So right here is the point in which Hadra now has the arm across, just like before. Now he has his leg up over right here. And immediately into a full extended arm lock. So right here we have Hadra with the end of the lever at the wrist here. We have his hips right here, which would be like the fulcrum, and he has his legs coming down heavy. See, the legs heavy, hips this way, and arm down. So full extended arm bar right here. You can see that. That right away, that pressure is going right into that elbow right here. Now, just like before, Jacare has a similar answer where he's trying to stack up. He's trying to compress Hadra here. He's trying to control the end of his wrist so he can curl it back in, compress. And he's trying to also come down with his head here. He's coming up to his feet. But that arm is still fully extended. Still fully extended. He's trying to step around here, but that arm, full-blown arm lock. And right here, Jacare is trying to shake it off, but, you know, Hadra's staying on it here. He's got that full kind of extension there. Now Jacare goes to step over. You can see the elbow is just slipping, but he's still staying on it right here. Shaking. He frees the elbow here. And he's out. And just in that too, you see Hadra also got an advantage right there. And Jacare is going to scramble out here, try to get the end of the mat, and then Hadra gets on top. He ends up on top turtle, which I believe is a takedown here. So that would give Hadra 2 points. I had trouble seeing kind of the hand signals there for the 2 points. It's like low quality. but I'm pretty sure Roger got 2 points there. So that would make the score 2 points for Roger and 4 points for Jacare. So there's a bit of debate here. They were kind of a little bit of in a scramble there on the edge of the mat. And Jacare was kind of scrambling out to the edge of the mat here. Because of the dynamic position, Roger's saying we should start in turtle. And Jacare is basically saying, no, it's a scramble. Like, I don't want to start there. It looks like the ref decides that they should just start on their feet here because of the scramble. But you notice right away here, Jacare's arm is just kind of dangling on the side there, just kind of swinging around. And it looks like that was a little bit of a stalling penalty there for Jacare. Now, you notice right there, Jacare did a little adjustment to his arm right there. You can tell something's wrong right here. Coming around. Look at that. Little adjustment right there. His arm just swinging there. That left arm is toast. You see Jacare basically backpedaling and backpedaling. He's got that one arm there, kind of scrambling the end of the mat here, escaping. So it's really interesting here. You can tell something's wrong with Jacare's arm because he's grabbing his own pants here. So at this point, his arm isn't swinging about. He's using his hand to basically grab his own pants here. Try to keep it a little stable. But he's just using that one good arm to try to keep distance here and circle out. And there was a takedown there, but that was after time. So, again, that's no points for Roger there. If that counted, Roger would be ahead. And Roger pulls guard at the edge of the mat there. Kind of looks like a reverse de la Hiva. So refs resetting them in the center here, putting on that reverse de la Hiva. Right away, Jacare scrambles out. He's running away. You notice at this point now, Jacare is literally just sticking his hand, I believe, behind his belt here, just keeping it pinned there. So he's literally fighting with one arm right here, circling around. Or he might be grabbing his own belt there. Okay, this is it. This is the end of the match here. We got Jacare with one arm, up by 2 points. One takedown, Roger wins it. Chasing around. And that is time. Jacare wins after basically getting his arm broken by 2 points. Okay, so now that we've seen the match, I just want to give a quick overview of the arm lock, how it works, and some of the damage it can do. And typically what I like to do with these sort of things, I like to look at jiu-jitsu as fundamentally about like physics and about human anatomy. And technique is just like an engineering problem to basically like destroy each other. So with that being said, you know, we have our arm lock position here, like from closed guard, similar to the match we just saw. And typically what happens here, you know, you have the wrist, thumb up, you have your hips right over the elbow, and you have your legs up over the head. And what this basically does is creates a lever basically here. So the effort portion of a lever would be, you know, your hands at the wrist right here. And the fulcrum would be where the elbow's at the hip. And the load is basically, you know, their shoulder and your legs pushing them down here. And then you're also adding like hip extension through here. So your hips are extending to the fulcrum, and then you're pulling down at the end of the lever here. Like the further you pull down here at the end, the more power you're going to generate right here. So I found this like quick example here on Facebook. You know, there's a whole bunch of formulas and numbers and things, but this kind of illustrates that idea here. You know, you have the force going downward here, you have the force here at the hips, and then you have the hands on the arm here pulling down. So again, a lever is basically a simple, you know, machine. It has these core elements here, you know, a rigid bar here, which in this case, the arm is the arm bar, and you have the fulcrum and the pivot point here. And you have the load at the end, but it's actually your own legs would be pushing down, creating that pressure on the elbow joint. And the arm lock here can come in different positions, but here's a one, you know, we have Mighty Mouse here. And you notice here too, the elbow is right over that hip bone. That's a really good fulcrum here. So that's a misconception here. You don't necessarily want the arm straight. It's really good to get it right on that hip because you can raise the hip a little bit higher and you have that nice bony part right here. And especially in jiu-jitsu tournaments, you're not wearing a cup. It also gives you a nice surface to, you know, arm lock someone from there. And here's another good example here. You can really see that extension right here. He's grabbing at the end of the wrist. You can kind of see that arm hyperextended right there. And again, they can come from all sorts of other positions. Here's like an inverted arm lock right here. Same things apply. This time it's kind of inverted, but he has his hips on top here, and he's hyperextending that elbow. Okay, so now I just briefly want to go over what happens to the human body when you get put in an arm lock. And I'm not like a medical professional or anything like that, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. And if I say anything that's incorrect, please let me know in the comments. But what basically I want to explain here is what happens when you put someone in an arm lock. So what basically happens is you're taking the arm into hyperextension. So everyone's arm basically has a limit to how far you can extend it on your own here. I can send my arm that far, but some people, they're hypermobile and they can go, all the way across completely fine. They can go, further than I can actually. So, and some people can go even less, they might have a lot, a limited range of motion. And what's basically limiting your range of motion, it's the connective tissue. It could even be the shape of your bones, and the joint itself could limit it. And what basically happens when you hit that end range, you start to get stopped by your own structure and your tightness of their various tendons and connective tissue in there. So if you have our skeleton right here, we can see there's different layers here. So here's the bone here. And there's other layers, like I mentioned here. There's like connective tissue here. And these are basically your ligaments here. They connect the bones with each other. And then you also have your muscle system here, which they're connected by tendons here. And typically what happens, at least from my own experience and what I've heard, it's not, your arm isn't breaking traditionally in an arm lock here. Usually some of the first things to sustain damage are the connective tissues. These are your ligaments, and then also your tendons that connect the muscles here. So then what tends to happen, you sustain damage to the connective tissue. So that's typically what happens first. And, I've been arm locked before, and I had like minor pain, and, it hurt when I extended, and I kind of get better on its own. Likely that was just like a stretching of the connective tissue, but there's various other things that can happen here. But typically that's the first thing that most people will experience, is that connective tissue being damaged in an arm lock here. So that's normal, but as I was reading, like a whole host of other things could happen. If it's really bad, and the connective tissue can be completely severed. With that, pieces of bone can come off, and then you have pieces of bone in your elbow, which many fighters I've heard having that sort of issue where they have a damage to their connective tissue, but then they have bones floating around because it kind of peels off. Like the ligament gets torn, and it takes with it like chunks of bone. And once that's even damaged even further, at a certain point, you could be, depending on the structure, you could be limited by, the shape of your joint capsule there. And the bone, you could get bone on bone pressure. So extreme arm bars, you're getting the bone hitting the bone, you get bone bruises, and then you can actually start to get, kind of damage to the bones itself. But typically what's going to happen, you're just having all sorts of damage to that elbow joint in various regions. And there's all sorts of weird things that can happen too, because there's all sorts of kind of circuitry that goes through there. Once that connective tissue gets damaged, you have nerves going through there, so nerves can get damaged, which can affect function and give you a host of other issues. You also have, blood flow going through there, and as things get moved around, you could have issues with blood flow to your hand even if things get really bad. So typically, it's not, a minor arm lock isn't going to like shatter your bone, but it's going to do damage to the connective tissue. So what I think, my unprofessional opinion, what's probably happened in that match, there was some damage to the connective tissue in Jacare's arm, and he lost the ability for his arm to function. It was very painful. Maybe the elbow was unstable, which is another thing that could happen. So it felt, dangerous to move. Either way, he basically like lost function of that arm in the match there. So I did just say, the arm lock isn't going to break the arm. That's not the intention, but crazy things have happened. And one thing I've seen happen in MMA is arm locks where the pressure actually goes into the forearm and it breaks the arm. Maybe it's the shearing pressure, especially when you have a huge person. Like here we have Frank Mir. You have a huge heavyweight, extending his hips, and it just shows how powerful that lever is. But I'm going to just play this clip real briefly. If you're a little bit squeamish, you might not want to watch this one.
This is what he's looking at. His arm is turned sideways. I think Herb Dean might have been confused here.
And there you go. He's extending. You notice that the elbows slipped a bit here and the arms kind of turned. And boom, right there. You can see that pop on the forearm. So the way the angle was there, that case, yes, he actually broke his arm there, his forearm there. But, you know, that can happen, but that's not the intent with an arm bar. You're going to have a lot easier time just attacking that joint right there. Clearly, that being said, with the way arm locks work and the different things they attack, there's a wide range of severity of how much damage could be done. You know, whether you can continue from being arm locked, you know, depends. Were you just hyperextended a little bit of damage, or were things completely broken and unstable? Like, it looked like Jacare's arm was pretty much, you know, cooked during that match. But, you know, there's examples of other matches. Like, here's an MMA match here with Jon Jones versus Vitor Belfort. And here in this match, you know, Vitor gets a full-blown arm lock here, fully extended here on Jon Jones' arm. And you can see that he's trying to shake out, similar to Jacare, but he's lifting him up there and kind of stepping over. Yeah, and then he escapes here. And then from there, Jon Jones goes on to win the match there. And I think many people say that was the closest Jon Jones has ever been to losing outside of, you know, I believe his DQ loss. But that goes to show you, you know, there's different levels to how much damage you can take there. So I hope you enjoyed the match, and I hope you learned a few things about the basic mechanics of the arm lock and some of the damage it can do to the arm there. Now, is it worth tapping to an arm lock? I mean, I would say, hell yeah, it's worth tapping to an arm lock. But, you know, there's certain situations out there where you have like world champions with everything on the line where, you know, maybe they're willing to take the risk. You know, there could be serious damage to your arm and you could need surgery to repair those ligaments, and it could have side effects on nerves and put bone in your elbow, and all these terrible things could happen, you know, once the arm gets fully extended there. But, you know, when you're up on points in the finals of the absolute black belt where there's like a minute left, maybe you don't tap. You know, and it makes me wonder too, I was thinking about this a little bit more. You know, there's certain rule sets. For instance, you have, you know, EBI with overtime, and you could be winning and the person can go for an arm lock in the last round, and, you know, maybe you're going to take a little bit of an extension there and then try to escape, and, you know, the damage might be done, but you win the match and you win the prize money. This got me thinking too, now that we have CJI coming up with $1 million prize on the line. And not only that, there's round-based matches where the score is public. You could be up, you know, up on rounds. It could be the last round. Towards the end of the round, you get put in an arm lock. Maybe you don't tap, you know, because maybe if you know, you're down to one arm, and if you can survive that round, you won the other round. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that match, and I hope you enjoyed the format where we kind of go into the match and we kind of dive deep a little bit on some of the technical details there. If you like this video, please let me know in the comments, and if you have any suggestions for things for future videos, please let me know as well. See you later.